Good morning. Let's call the meeting to order, please. Today is Tuesday, July 25th. We're at the Civic Center for our second regular meeting. If you would, let's stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Adrian, call the roll, please.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Here.
Ms. Albrecht?
Here.
Mayor Cathy?
Here.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Here. Thank you. I don't have any comments. Are there any comments from Rex? You have anything? Not here.
Nothing?
Nothing? Nope. All right, moving along. Citizens' comments. Have anybody that has a comment, please come to the podium.
Chuck Guilford, 104 Miramar. I run Charisma Charters, and the contractor that was doing all the work on the canal out at the entrance to the channel, he put two of the markers that are so close together until it's a danger to any of the boats coming and going. If a wave catches one of the boats and kicks him a little sideways, he can go right into either one of the pilings. And as I had spoke to him, he said this was an engineer thing, but it is extremely dangerous, and I would request that please, if you would look in to see if there's any possibility to extending the width of those pilings at least double of what it is now, because I have the largest boats in here, and I'm really concerned about having a wave and coming between the two pilings. They're so close together, and why? Have no earthly idea. Thank you.
So if you got any comments on that? Because that's nailed it down.
If we wanted to look at moving the channel markers, we'd have to start the process with the United States Coast Guard. They approved those markers years ago. We just put them back where they were supposed to go in the first place. But if it's something that the council wanted to do, we would have to start the whole permitting process with the Coast Guard. But they are where they're supposed to be, according to the United States Coast Guard. And they're what, 48 feet?
I think 48, I believe.
48 feet apart. So.
All right. Any other comments? Citizens' comments? Whoever, come on to the podium. Sure.
Here's Rochelle, it's on the solid waste and sanitation ordinance. Are we addressing that now?
Sanitation ordinance?
Yeah, 671. Is that on the agenda for today?
Yeah, it's on the agenda.
Okay, can I comment now? Would you want
You'd
me to-
rather comment when it's time, when
Oh, you're
it's,
gonna bring it up later?
sure, it's on the agenda. It's
Okay.
a,
I can wait.
it's a,
It's on for a second reading. but
yeah, it's on the, for a second reading. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw, yeah, Leonard, come on.
My name's Leonard Giffen. I live at 104 19th Street near Mexico Beach. I've got a problem I hope you can help me solve. First, I got a question. Where can a double-wide mobile home be set up? Can it be set up in the on Road 19?
No mobile homes in the city.
Then the one being set up on 19th Street, in all respects, is a double-wide mobile home. I talked to Ken briefly the other day. He said because HUD had his sticker on the inside that it was a prefab home. But problem is HUD don't have anything to do with prefab homes.
DCA.
DCA has.
DCA, it's not
Yeah.
HUD.
That's right.
It's
Prefab
DCA.
homes.
Okay.
That's DCA. And how can they set up that trailer there when everything about it says it's a double wide trailer, a mobile home, rather than a prefab home? It's come in, it's built on I-beams, they come on wheels, they set it up on blocks, and they tied it down with straps. All that says is in the description of a mobile home. A prefab home is built, and the only thing common between a prefab home and a mobile home is that they're both manufactured at the factory. And they're both transported out to the site where they're gonna be set up. But after that, it's not the same. A prefab home is set on a permanent foundation. Once it's set, it cannot be moved. A mobile home is set up on blocks, and it can be moved from one place to another. In this instance, this double wide, I'm gonna call it a double wide mobile home because that's what it is. They brought it in on wheels, they set it up on blocks, they're tying it down by straps, and just to make things convenient, they took the tongue off and stuck them under the unit so they can move it later on. So everything points that that trailer is a double wide mobile home and not a prefab. And I'm asking that the county the council look closer into it and possibly put a stop work order on it until they can figure out what's going on. If it's got a HUD sticker on the inside, then it's not a prefab home.
DCA sticker.
It's got a DCA sticker?
Oh, I don't know, but it has to be, that's what constitutes the modular, or what governs the modular home. And I tell you what, if you'll bear with us, we got a gentleman here today that's gonna talk to us, and we'll get him to address that, because it's been talked about. I understand your concern, but I think you're probably not gonna like what you hear, but he's gonna be able to tell us about modular homes and what's required, that what makes them. It wasn't part of what we were gonna talk to him about, but we may as well talk to him about it. Bo Creel's here. If you'll give us a few minutes, I'll give him a chance to address that when we get to him in the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Okay? Bo, you fair with that? Yes. Okay. Now that I've said you're gonna do it, all right, appreciate it.
Can I go back to a comment?
Go back to, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to say kudos to Ricky and Dale. Last weekend, my family was down here, and so they went over by the canal and stopped a couple of Mexico Beach workers, and it happened to be Ricky and Dale, and asked how you get to Crooked Island. So they said, well, we go out, 98, and the first street to your left, turn. And so they says, oh, just follow us. So Don and Steve followed them. Well, Steve turned too soon. He went on one of the paths. Was not my niece, it was her husband. Went on the path. Well, Ricky and Dale noticed they weren't following him. So they were nice enough to turn around and go in there and said, you can't take a van in there. You're gonna get stuck. Well, they did. And Ricky and Dale pulled them out. My niece is forever grateful to them. So thank you to Ricky and Dale for being such a nice way of welcoming them to Mexico Beach.
Will her husband ever?
Are there other citizens' comments?
Will her husband ever forget it?
Okay. Next, we have just a set of minutes from the July 11th meeting that's under the consent agenda. Are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? Not. Do we have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second.
Have a motion second. Any opposition to the minutes? Motion passes 5-0. Dewberry?
Good morning, Jeff Britton, Dewberry. I don't have a full list of project updates prepared to present today, but if anything you have questions on, feel free to ask, and I'll do my best to answer. The canal, it's substantially complete. We gave them a punch list of items they needed to address. That punch list of items is approximately 90% complete. The contractor called us back and has asked us to schedule a final walkthrough follow-up so we can go down that list and denote what was wrong and whether or not it's been corrected. Philip and I were talking about our upcoming schedules as to when we'd be able to do that, so we're trying to get that done soon. Alternate water supply project. The test well is completely installed. It's over 800 feet deep. We're running our last test, I believe, today. We have a call on Thursday to talk about the way forward. From this point forward, it's just going to be analyzing water samples and making a determination as to whether or not that's going to be an acceptable location for us. If it is, we'll start putting together some preliminary design drawings on how that water will be brought to the public works yard and then tied into the main system. Also on that one, reimbursement request number 1 is being prepared. Working with Adrian on getting proof of payment so we can submit to DEP. The beach restoration DEP grant, the application is being finalized. That'll go in next Monday or Tuesday. And then last hot item, I think, is the boat ramp power easement. Sketch and description was provided to Duke Energy. Last I heard, their easement people were talking with St. Joe's easement people to coordinate the language. Both of them have set easement languages, and they don't always align, so that's what they're working through right now. Any questions?
For Newberry? Thank you, Jeff.
Sure.
Before we move on back to the pilings, or not the pilings, but the markers at the canal, is there anybody, or do we want to do anything about that? Do we want to find out what's involved, or I guess it's where they've been for years?
Well, they've been in the wrong place for years. We've put them in the right place.
Put them in the right place according to,
The United States Coast Guard and the GPS
and they did that by
coordinates were
GPS
approved.
coordinate?
Yes, sir.
How far out of whack were they?
Compared to the old ones?
Yeah.
About what?
The old ones were 20 feet wider, I think.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had 60 feet before, 68 feet before. We got 48 feet roundabout now.
That is quite a difference.
I think we ought to at least see what, I've had several people comment about those pipes, boaters. I think we ought to at least ask them, what's involved. If we could get them 48 feet, 2 big boats, that's not a lot of room. What'd they do, just send us a coordinate?
No, we'll say, hey, we want X amount of feet, 68 feet. That's what we're requesting for clearance. And then we'll have to go out there, we'll have to find a coordinate, which we'll provide to the United States Coast Guard, and then they'll go through their process of denying or approving that coordinate. I don't know what the process entails. I've never,
Do you, Jeff?
No, it's not my head.
Isn't that barge still here?
no, it's gone.
It's gone, they're gone.
I may have a comment on that.
What's that?
Corps of Engineers does a survey for the Coast Guard. I know one of them. I might ask him.
Okay.
I just think I'd hate to know we have a problem, get a boat damaged or get somebody, if we need more footage there, safety-wise, we ought to look into that and see,
We can do
I mean,
that.
that's my opinion.
Right.
Yeah, at
When-
least
when
back
we-
out to where it was.
Right, when we started this process, did we request a certain amount of footage between them? Or did we just say, what's your recommendation?
No, we requested the same coordinates that were approved by the Coast Guard back
Okay.
in 2001, 2002, something like that. We had, according to the Coast Guard, we had 14 channel markers at some point in time or another.
All right, so these were approved in '01 and somehow,
Well, they were approved starting around 2001, 2002,
Okay.
and then we've added some more
But-
throughout the years. Like I said, we had 14 total.
okay, but somehow they got expanded over the years, evidently.
Somehow they got ridiculous.
Okay,
They did, and we took all of them out but 4, which are the 4 that you see out there now.
okay.
Well, let's see if we can, let's look into what's involved to get the Coast Guard to agree to that and as quickly as we can and
Sure.
see what we gotta do.
10-4.
Okay. All right, ordinance 670 and 671, I had asked Adrian, those are second readings. We had the first reading at our July 11th meeting. And my interpretation at that meeting was that we would put those on our August meeting. I would suggest to the council that we table both of those. I don't think 2-week notice between first and second readings is the way we should deal with ordinances.
You're
That's
speaking
fine.
of voting only, not comments. You said you're speaking just voting on it only, or second reading only, not,
The second reading
okay.
for the August
But we
meeting.
will accept comments.
Well, they're on here, I think we should.
Yeah, okay.
It's
I just
on the
wanted-
agenda, I think, if there are comments, but
Yeah.
my suggestion
Oh, I
is that we
agree.
table those.
Yeah.
And so from here on, every time we have an ordinance, we have a month in between, rather than 2 weeks.
Yeah, the charter makes
Yeah.
reference that it's
Okay.
2 regular meetings.
Meetings,
Well,
well-
for 50 years, it's been 2 regular meetings, meaning
Right,
the second Tuesday of every month.
Mm-hmm.
Now that we're doing it this way, I just think this,
that's fine.
I agree.
okay, so do I have a motion to table? Ordinance 670,
Motion to
671.
Second.
We have a motion to second. Is there any opposition? The fact they're on the agenda, are there any comments that people might have come for to comment about 670 or 671? Yes, sir.
Council, my name is Keith. 671, or the ordinance, has no mention of recycling at all, and the state legislature has mandated local recycling. Is it appropriate that we kind of consider
We
it?
do recycle.
I know we have the bins down there, but in any formal sense. Should we-
Excuse me?
In any formal sense, should we put it in some of the ordinances that we do something? And then attending to that is the fact that, as it stands now, we have to take any household hazardous waste and electronics over to Steelfield Road. And that's a 20-mile haul or so through town. Do we have, or can we get it, any kind of agreement with Five Points Landfill and Waste Pro to do stuff over there? Has that been approached or looked at at all?
Yeah, well, we just did it. We did it involuntarily, and we got called on the carpet about it by Bay County. Bay County has an ordinance that was passed in 1991 that says that all garbage and waste collected in Bay County will go to the incinerator.
There's,
So we got, we got a setup that was a little sweeter deal for us in Port St. Joe. And Bay County called us on it and sent us a copy of the ordinance. I've been talking to the people over there, and they have a debt service on the incinerator that's still active for 6 years. And they are not inclined to release us from that ordinance because of the debt service and the bond issue that's associated with that debt. So the answer is yes, we have something closer, but we're not in a good position to use it.
from my background with DEP, waste flow, which is what you're talking about, was struck down in '94 by the Supreme Court, and so that threw Florida into some sort of disarray. And the ordinance you're talking about is 1991. It would be interesting to see how that's been enforced in Bay County. We know
It
a lot.
has to be enforced, Corby, because there's no other place, there's no landfill other than Steelfield. And they don't accept,
Does all of our waste go to Steelfield and nothing goes to the incinerator?
oh, it goes to the incinerator,
It all goes to the incinerator?
absolutely.
Okay.
And the incinerator sells power.
Correct.
It's a power producing,
Right.
so
Okay, I was just wondering because,
Gotcha.
you know, recycling is a fact, and if we want to take stuff, we got to go to Steelfield.
gotcha.
Okay.
Other comments about either of those ordinances? They'll be on the August meeting, first Tuesday. Okay, moving on. Resolution 2017-10. Do I have a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Please read.
Resolution 2017-10, a A resolution of the City of Mexico Beach expressing support for establishment of a Gulf of Mexico estuary program for the comprehensive management, restoration, and protection of the St. Andrew Bay watershed, pledging to participate in the process, providing for an effective date.
Any comments? Concerns?
One, in a general sense, Al.
Yep, just come back to the podium, please, and speak to the mic so they can pick it up on the tape.
St. Joe Bay is a part of the watershed. To make it more clear, you might add it in there in some form, just as a qualifier, including St. Joe Bay. If you look at the watershed map of Florida, you'll see it, but it's not apparent from this, so that...
It is not, and you're right. St. Joe Bay is part of, and I saw where the Bay County Commission at their Tuesday meeting last Tuesday set aside, I believe it's $300,000 a year to participate in studying both of those watersheds.
And St. Joe is an outstanding Florida water. It's protected.
Yeah, and that's a very good point. The fact that we're going to pass a resolution about the estuary program, if we're going to include St. Andrews Bay, we ought to include St. Joseph Bay. That's more of a point. I mean, it's included, but the fact that it says St. Andrews Bay watershed, it's broader than that.
Right, that's a scientific and probably a legal definition, but just to clarify for people that they know that we're part of that, St. Joe's part of that, and we got
So
something.
that's a good point. I would suggest that we amend that ordinance to simply include St. Joseph Bay / St. Andrews Bay watershed.
Do you want to amend the title? It is in the resolution. That is just the title. You see, the resolution says include St. Joseph Bay.
Oh, there you go. Well, it's in one of those whereases. I
Yep.
forget, Nick's good at that. Okay. So there you go.
Okay.
I didn't catch that. I was reading it based on the
The
short.
title, yeah.
So it's for us.
It's in there.
Refast. Cool.
All right, we have any other comments? Call the roll, please. Excuse me. Do I have a motion to adopt? So moved. Second. Call the roll.
Mr. McLaughlin?
Yes.
Ms. Albright?
Yes.
Mayor Kaplan?
Yes.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes. Okay, moving on. Building Department. Mr. McLaughlin, that's on it's got two names by it, but.
I just had,
And by the way, just some of you may or may not know, Mel has been in the hospital. I was told he was out.
Soon to be out.
He should be out this morning. He had a little stomach issue, but is doing fine and should be back in a few days. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, a couple of meetings ago is what got me on this, there seemed to be, an irritation against the city manager more than EPCA when we were talking about those two houses here. I got curious if I was missing something, and if I was, then I wasn't doing my job up here, I felt. So I started looking at contracts and various things, and basically all I would like to bring forward to the council, there's some things I think we need to look at. I think we have, as a council, have to bear some of the problems that we've seen and have talked about. And if you don't mind, give me a couple minutes and I'll kind of go over what I looked at. I looked at the contract which we, the council, approved back in January. It's approved about every 4 years. And you all have been with us, 12?
We started in April, I believe, of 2004.
Okay.
As we provided your building official, commercial and residential plan review and commercial inspections. So then actually you turned the entire department over to us in September of 2005.
Okay, so somewhere around 10, 12 years. The first thing that got me as I was looking through the contract was, and I wasn't really expecting to see it, there was nothing that says what the city wants, from you all in the contract. You tell us what you'll do for us. And there wasn't an accompanying document in January, and I asked, and no one knew if there was one that said what we really want EPCI to do for us, which makes it really hard then when a contract comes up to see if the contract meets what the city's really wanting. I think one of the things we need to do is put together a document. We know what they want now, but 4 years from now, there's possibly going to be different people sitting at this table to approve a contract. And if there's nothing provided by the city that says what's needed, it's going to be, again, awful hard to do it. I noticed when I went through the contract that there wasn't anything in there that says which way you all have to go if there's a problem, who you talk to. In fact, in the contract, the only city members that are mentioned are we, the board, and the clerk in the contract. It doesn't say if there's an anomaly, who they take it to. Now, Mel is there, certainly would expect it, but again, there's nothing down that says what they have to do. I know, and I think one of the other things that really caught my eye in your contract was we've spoken up here from time to time, well, if they had just looked at the LDR or if they had just looked at the comp plan, and I know you have a copy of it and so forth in your office, but again, from a contract standpoint, you mentioned that y'all are experts and you keep up with the Florida codes and everything, but nowhere in the contract does it say anything about the LDR or comp plan. And there's a clause that I guess could be taken.
Those are the LDR, our duties, our contract was amended sometime after the original contract to include review of development orders. That was our only duty as far as the LDR was concerned, was to review the development orders. I believe the LDR itself refers in some instances to the building inspector, which that's kind of synonymous with building official, what have you. I've always been the one that's handled the development order review in Mexico Beach. Although we have another building official actually serving as a building official per the Florida Building Code, who is Mark Hodges. But like I said, I've got more experience here than he does, so we do that. But like I said, there is an amendment that exists. I'll try to locate you a copy of that.
Okay, because I didn't say, I just pulled the contract from this year that we looked at.
Yes, sir.
And I just was kind of, wow, y'all are our building department, but gee.
Right, yeah, that was added by amendment, I believe. Wow, I'd be amiss
I would
to try
like
to guess
to,
the date.
I would kind of like to see next time you bring it up that, the contract up that's actually there and
Sure,
not be
absolutely,
a question.
yes.
That's kind of what I'm saying. I know you look at, but
Right.
if you look at the contract, it's just not there, and you're acting for
Yeah,
us.
our contract establishes a percentage, I believe, and by the way, you guys get the biggest percentage of any of the 10 I have. Thanks to Chuck Reisner, actually. He negotiated that. And then the development order review, which is a little more intense as far as review standards based on the LDR and comp plan. I think we were on a 90-10 split on that. We get 90%, you get 10% of the funds. But like I said, I saw that not too long ago, so I'll try to locate that for you.
Okay. The other one that, in looking through, or I guess in talking to Royce, when I talked to her about a couple of these plans, was that y'all require, I don't know if it's city by city, but for us, y'all require, of course, the engineering plans for a building, but an engineering plan wasn't required to be engineered when you were talking about the interior design where the walls are set, from my
No,
understanding.
sir. The only engineering that we ever require is for the wind load based on the Florida Building Code. Florida Building Code, if you look at it, every plan that you produce for anything, whether it's a lawn storage building or anything else, requires engineering. But they have some alternative methods that you can use, one of them being ICC 600, as which is an acronym for the hurricane-resistant residential construction, and also the wood frame construction manual. You can utilize those in lieu of engineering. Basically, you're doing your own engineering. It's a generic standard. You can utilize those, but most contractors in this area do not have the capability of utilizing that publication as it should be utilized. If somebody comes up with it, we can review it based on that. We can make a decision on it. But most of them just do a structural calculation on the building. There's nothing that requires on a single-family residence for us to do anything on an interior design.
See, and I guess the point I'm concerned with that is kind of like the two buildings we
Yes,
have
sir.
now. If we don't have you as a building department look at the interior and really
Right, well, now-
question, then we can end up in
Right.
some issues.
Well, now, we review the interior, such as, and in the two buildings, your particular building you're talking about, I didn't like those any better than anybody else, just to tell you the truth. I probably shouldn't make a statement like that, but anyway. And I really dug hard to see, you know, if they met the requirements of Florida Building Code. First thing was garage. There is no definition of a garage in the Florida Building Code residential or commercial. There's not one in the Florida Fire Prevention Code. The Florida Fire Prevention Code doesn't actually apply to residential dwellings. They've been exempted for the current time in that publication, other than your smoke detectors, and those are done by Florida statute. The only definition I was able to find was Webster's Dictionary, and it's designed as housing a motor vehicle, designed to house a motor vehicle. Neither of the buildings that we're discussing, according to the owner now, and we have to base our decisions based on the information we get from the owner as far as the use of the building. And according to the owner, the one on there at Georgia Avenue, I forgot what address it is exactly. That one, when he's not in town, he's gonna park his boat in there. Okay, boat doesn't meet the definition of motor vehicle. The one over on, is it Bailey Lane? Okay, that one, the gentleman wanted to park his golf cart in there when he's not around. Okay, supposedly when the building's occupied, there'll be nobody, there'll be nothing parked inside. It's just to be moved outside. This, while, we don't have the ability to police beyond that point. I could have told them, no, you can't do that. But at the same time, if I was challenged in court, then I couldn't back it up. Now, the condition of the CO is, when we issue a certificate of occupancy on that building, the one on Georgia will be for housing a boat when the occupants are not here. The same way on Bailey Lane, that's gonna be housing a golf cart when he's not here. And of course, we don't know whether the golf cart's electric or gasoline operated, whatever the case may be. The Florida Building Code residential requires that a garage be separated by a very light firewall, 20-minute rated door, and with a threshold from a garage in a home. And if you've got sleeping quarters above, then you've got to do a 2-hour lid on your garage to separate that, because of the potential for gasoline to ignite. If you've got a fuel-fired water heater in the garage, then you have to raise those up so they're at least 18 inches above the floor, the ignition source, so that you don't take a chance on a spark igniting gasoline fumes. So there are a lot of things, and we do look at those. We look at the fact that every bedroom has to have an escape window. The minimum window opening, when you open it up for escape, has to be a minimum 20 inches wide and 24 inches tall. That can apply to the ground floor as well as second floor. We also make sure that you got at least one bathroom door that's 2 foot 8 inches wide, so that provides width enough for a wheelchair to get in, and that you've got an accessible path from the front door of the house to that bathroom for a wheelchair. And of course, a home must have a minimum one room at least 150 square feet. It has to have a bedroom, a minimum of 70 square feet. Your electrical outlets have to be spaced no more than 12 feet apart, so that you can reach an outlet within 6 feet with a cord. That's the length of cords it comes on appliances. Other than countertop appliances, they got a 2-foot cord. So that requires that we make sure that we've got outlets every 4 foot. Sometimes that may not be on the plans, but when we go to do our inspections, then we look for that and make sure that that's adhered to. But yeah, we do the interior.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was interesting though, and I wasn't really bringing up these individual houses.
Oh, yeah, I
I was
understand.
just basically, was making some observations in
Yes, sir.
general.
Yes, sir.
But in this one case, I was told that, and I said, well, gee, didn't you ask what the people were doing? You know, if they have this big door here?
Yes, sir.
And I was told, no.
I did.
Okay. I'm just saying, I was told
Yes.
no. I certainly hope that we do ask questions, because
Yes,
if we don't, we don't. And maybe if there isn't a good definition of a garage in the cases that you're talking about, we need to do it. I frankly would still love to see the engineering drawings. My point was, in the engineering drawings, I'd like to see, if it were me, from my point of view, if someone brings in a
Right.
plan for a whole house and it's engineered, the whole thing
If it's-
inside should be
well,
engineered.
if-
That's just my point of view.
If
on
you're,
the
if you're
criticism.
dealing with the interior, that would have to be designed by an architect. Now, the engineering usually takes care of the structure, and so an engineer wouldn't really be able to design the interior design of your home. He can do minor if it's part of what he's doing. But anyway, I see your point.
Yeah.
And I don't disagree with you, but I'm not sure the Florida Building Code's gonna ever agree with us.
May not, whether we could ask for it or not, I
Yes,
don't know.
sir.
That's, like I said, I was just doing some
Right.
observations.
Other, Bill Schubert, you.
Sure.
You got more questions?
I just have a couple more observations as I
I'm
go
sorry,
through.
go right ahead.
Not much more, but anyway, because we don't have a document that's set up by the council, again, there's no direction of where y'all, if there is an anomaly, go to, whether it is mail straight to us or not. Again, I'd love to see us put a document together that puts a communications path together for APCI. The one thing I noticed that absolutely I thought was interesting, when we had the State of the City meeting, we had a organization chart for functionality up, and you picked up on the attorney very quickly, which was absolutely correct, indicating that this was not an employee but service contract function. And I had looked at the chart and just penciled in the same thing using EPCI and our engineers over here, Dewberry. And it looked back, and then in walking around and doing this, the observation that caught my attention was, if an average citizen walked in, or someone new doing roofs and walked into our offices, actually would not be able to make a determination whether they're talking to a city employee or not. I know I've talked to Mel, and he's taken the sign off your door that just says building department.
Yes.
But typically, I know in the past, I'm not sure if it's changed yet, you walk in the front office and say, hey, I need to figure out what to do about a fence, and someone's going to say building department down the hall. If you listen to the phone and you dial in for it, it says building department. There's no indication that building department is anything other than a city employee. The contract says we provide them a nice office and all the components. But I know it's on the contract. I'm just saying it's there, and it's in our building, regardless of what the contract
Right.
says. I'm just saying it's there. And I know when I went in and talked to Royce, I happened to look at the desk. Nothing said it wasn't a city employee. I said, well, gee, where's there? You got a card? And way back over in the corner, she had her cards, which is good. She could have given me one. I guess the point I'm saying is that if anyone just walks in, they don't know that you're not a city employee. And I personally, basically from past history with me and a large tech company and other tech companies several years ago, got into a legal situation because they had contract workers working for them, and ended up having to hire a bunch of them because they were treated, and there was no indication that they were not employees of these companies. I think there should be something out there that says,
Fully agree with you.
okay,
I
but
would-
I'm just,
EPCI will have a sign made to go on the door. That's
Okay.
EPCI, Mexico Beach Building Department.
it was just an observation. Like I said, much of what I'm looking at is
Just so
just
you'll know,
observations.
in your deliberations, We received a summary judgment last year, or earlier this year, I think first part of this year, from Circuit Court that we are an agent of government, so we are your agent regardless as to whether we're employees or not.
Mhm. But at any rate, these are some observations. I think the biggest thing we need to do here, from our point, is put together a document for them saying where you take your communications if there's a problem, what you do. If it's Mel's responsibility, or the city manager's responsibility, that is spelled out. Just, like I said, some observations. Sorry it took so long.
That's okay.
Before we get on another subject,
Yes, sir.
any questions?
No, but I think that's a good idea, following through. Make it clearer for people, then we don't have any fog.
Directed to both, or us?
All of you.
Well, get it on then.
I have a question.
Connie Reisinger, 504 Maryland. I am very unhappy with that building that's on the corner of 4th and Georgia. That, first of all, our LDR says you cannot build a garage first before you may build the main building. All right, he went under, this person that built this, went under the premises that this was going to be a house, and he does have a drawing where he's supposed to have a kitchen, he's supposed to have a bathroom, he's supposed to have a bedroom. Actually, what he has is a garage. Now, he should never be given any CO to do anything because I wouldn't be allowed to go into a building. He shouldn't even be allowed to park that boat in there right now because this building has not been finished. He's not done any work on it that I can see. And I think right there is the problem. Why is he being allowed to park his boat in this place? Because it's not finished.
Could you say that any more emphatically? Okay. Now, let's remember where we are in the agenda in terms of we're addressing not specific those bills. I don't want to get on sidetracked here, but so if you've got, is it, Bobby, like you got a question or a comment about for Bo or for us?
Well, why is
Just
he
a minute.
allowed to park his boat?
Look.
I didn't know he was parking his boat.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well,
If he doesn't have his
Just-
CO,
you
then
just
we will
stated
address that with him.
Thank you.
Yeah,
There you go.
absolutely. Yeah, that's
Oh,
an easy
okay.
problem.
Mine was addressing the garages.
All right, come up here now, we gotta do this, if you got a question, Bo, just bear with us. This- there's- You hadn't been here in a while, so.
I'm used to
That's right.
I guess, hey, Al, I guess since you brought that up, I didn't mention it, but is there a way we can get Bo here at least once a month? Because all of our other people who work under these type contracts are here, and I think it would be good to have someone from the department, at least on a monthly basis, in case items like this come up.
We can address that. I
Okay.
mean, you know, go ahead, Bob.
Okay, Bobby Pollock, 215 Kim Cove.
What's the name again? I'm sorry.
Pollock, Bobby Pollock. You spell it like Pollock. Okay, I addressed the council about a year ago about a lot split that put a garage on a non-conforming lot. It's still there with a boat parked in front of it. Since then, at that time, I have to say I made a statement to the council that you opened up a can of worms doing this. Since then, there's been 2 garages built with no house. As far as I'm concerned, that's non-conforming, even though it's engineered drawings, Bo had to go by what is said. I feel like the council need to address this very soon. If not, every trailer that you have on Maryland, anywhere else, could be torn down, not having a double wide modular, but putting a garage up there with a little engineered drawing, and this whole town could have nothing but garages sitting there. So I wish the council would look at this and address it and take care. I live in a nice neighborhood. I work myself to that neighborhood. I don't want it downgraded with garages.
Okay,
I know that, Mayor, you weren't here when I had asked, so if you don't mind me speaking again.
go
I know
right
that-
ahead.
I know that Mel's not here, but I had asked two things of our attorney. One, to do something about the metal buildings, which he's done, and the other was to put together an ordinance so we could get rid of these in the future garage-type houses. I don't know where he is on that, he's not here, but I know that had been put out to him as an ordinance to change. He indicated it would be a little tough, but I don't know if it's been stopped or what, but we haven't heard back from him, I know. Just for information.
Right, not allowing garage doors, they have to be a
Yeah.
Well, I
house
have a
door.
question.
Let me
Go
say
ahead,
one
go
thing
ahead.
on those two houses. Those things have been permitted as a principal structure on the property. Before they will be allowed to build another principal structure on the property, which is not allowed in your code, then they are going to have to come before the board for approval. Because, like I said, anything else is going to be accessory to the principal.
Well, that was my question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They are now a principal structure.
They're now the principal structure, and anything else is going to be an accessory.
So they come in and say, now, I want to build a house. They already have a house.
And you do have limitations as to the size of principal structures.
That's
So,
right.
You know, you're 75% of what we see it now ain't gonna be a whole lot.
Oh, yeah, I understand
Okay,
that.
that was, I want to address to the crowd, and I want to say, just because it was brought up earlier by Bill when he mentioned about some criticism of the administrator. I said this once, I want to say again, the LDR provides in the document that the city administrator is the city eyes for approval of residential development orders. They don't have to come to the council. And it's non-conforming to the neighborhood. It's clear that those structures, it's my opinion, I've said it before, and we'll say it again, if you want to take it as criticism, it's criticism because it's constructive and it's exactly what happened. Those two buildings do not conform to the neighborhood. And they should not have been allowed to pass city mustard as if there was just another house being built on a street in a neighborhood. It should not have been that. It's clear by what's there that that's not what they are. So, I want to clarify that the language in the LDR puts that responsibility clearly on the position of the city administrator for the city of Mexico Beach. Clearly, the language is perfectly clear.
Would a city administrator have seen these final approvals before you would actually have given them approval to make that
I would
determination?
hopefully see the plans.
We usually take the results along with the plans to the city administrator and discuss it with him. Now, normally that's something that Royce handles, but I see your point.
My
now.
point being that
And-
when it's not conforming, and it should have
And-
come
and-
before the
and
city
I
council.
have to take some responsibility because he depends on our recommendation as to whether or not it meets the requirements of the LDR. We probably need to get some clear language as to, you're getting into a little bit of architectural design, but that's probably something that needs to be done in an ordinance to specifically address the character of the neighborhood. Like I said, you've got some language in there, but when you start going through reviewing, you know, in the mindset we're looking at, everybody's got a different idea as to what their dream looks like. And
Those don't look like any dream of in any neighborhood in Mexico.
I understand, absolutely.
So-
Don't
I
disagree.
have a question on the engineering drawings that you received.
Yes,
from-
ma'am.
Would it say garage door or would it just say front door?
It shows an opening, and of course, the plans are gonna show a door.
So-
And one of the things that I did when reviewing those was make sure, when we review a set of plans, we also have to look today at the Florida Energy Code to make sure to meet the requirements of that. And that was my first question when I saw them. I said, man, these have never meet the energy code, but they do.
They do. It was in the energy form. And like I said, when we went down the checklist of what the building code requires, it's all there.
So when you approved it and Mel approved it, we really did not know that there would be a garage door
We
there.
knew the plan showed a garage.
A
Yes,
garage
showed a
door,
garage door,
not
yeah.
just an opening.
Yes, ma'am. Met the structural requirements, met the, you know, like I said, didn't look like the rest of the neighborhood, but if you had a house next door that had, you know, a garage sticking out front, past it, which a lot of them do, other than the extra part of the house, not a whole lot of difference there. You know, it's
just that it's the primary structure.
yeah, and I think maybe if we had something that stated that no primary structure may have a garage door that occupies the entire front of the primary structure, I think that would be
That would solve
suitable.
the problem.
And that's not architectural, that's just plain and simple, we don't want to see this.
Other questions concerning, before we move to the modular home thing?
We were talking about square footage a while ago. And I've had people ask me about the tiny houses we see on TV.
Yes, sir.
And most of these tiny houses would meet our criteria. Do we have a minimum square footage for a house? I noticed you mentioned bedrooms and
I believe you do have them, man. I hope I'm not
700?
confusing it with Port St. Joe, but I think in your code you do have a
700? Okay.
700 square feet. Okay, I thought I'd seen that somewhere in your code. And I believe they do meet the minimum requirements. Now, there's a lot of the tiny houses, they got some now that's like, you know, they're 12, 14 feet wide, and they got one room from front to back, and they got a little loft. I saw some pictures of some yesterday, and, you know, I think somebody told me there's a development of them somewhere up at, maybe up at Mariana, or between Mariana and Grand Ridge. And those kind of things are gonna be something that sooner or later is gonna pop up, and that's something we're gonna be very, very solidly in. Probably before we would even attempt to advise one way or the other, we'd want that to come before the council. Because they got a lot of us less than 700 square feet.
Yeah, we may need to think of something more than 700.
Now, when you get down to that, it brings up another question, due to some things I'd considered doing on some property I had. I have a plan for a one-bedroom duplex. The duplex is 500 square feet, so if you decide, you know, you may want to look at the square footage of a unit rather than a residential structure. Because it can definitely make a difference, you know, if somebody can come in. A house is a single-family residence is a single-family residence, a duplex is something else. But that may be something you want to consider.
Good point, yeah.
Any others? Bo, help us with this modular home.
Nothing like that.
I know but I've heard it before, but
I'll say this up front. I'm not going to give you my personal opinion for on-frame modulars, okay? Because that could get us all in trouble. The Florida law states you cannot prohibit the placement of a modular building anywhere in the state of Florida. Doesn't matter. If it's modular, a modular building is constructed to minimum, or to Florida Building Code standards. Most of them use the minimum standards. The houses that you see, site-built homes, a lot of them are well above minimum standards. Minimum standards is not something that I'd want to see on my own building. They are inspected. Well, number one, the plans are presented and approved by an agency licensed by the Department of Community Affairs in the state of Florida to review as meeting Florida Building Code requirements. And I know a whole lot about that because we are one of those agencies. We're probably the only one up in this part of the state that's licensed to inspect those homes in the factory and to do those plan reviews. I have had a running argument. I don't know if any of you know there was one over in Port St. Joe that was placed. It really created a tremendous uproar because, by golly, it looked like a duck, you know. It came in, it was placed on a parking lot for the weekend, and it sat there, and it looked like the same things you see sitting on the mobile home lots haven't been put together yet. And the citizens were quite upset about it, and I understand it. We approved the permit because state law says we got to. If it meets Florida Building Code requirements, we don't have a choice. But I have argued with, and this one I'm going to check on this one you're talking about, because I have shown myself with the industry, and one in particular that's doing some houses down this way, based on the foundation, because I have plans from licensed engineers that say that the ground anchors and the straps and the dry stack blocks are permanent foundations. I don't have the ability, the educational ability to argue with them that it's not. I don't think it is, but because like you said, mobile homes were designed to be moved, and I don't consider that permanent. Now what I've come up with them so far is I'm requiring a solid runner, concrete runner, footer, all the way down to two sides of the building. And that the building is being closed on the bottom with a similar material as the house is constructed, vinyl siding or something. None of that, or what do you call it, skirting, mobile home skirting. That's not, to me. The products that are used in a building in the state of Florida either have to meet the basic requirements of the code, or they have to have Florida product approval. They've got these plastic footers that they stack these blocks on for mobile homes. We call them bread trays, because they got that look like a bread tray, like to carry the bread in the store with the bread men. The Florida Building Code states that a footer, the bottom of a footer has to be 12 inches below the ground. Well, now the engineer can do whatever he wants to do, if he can prove his calculations, but he can't change the requirements of the Florida Building Code. He can't go less than that. And those bread trays, I just had a conversation about it this week. I told the lady, I said, you need to show me the Florida product approval number for those footings. If you can't, then you're going to have to use a concrete footing. And the bottom of the footing has to be 12 inches below the ground. That's it. So she's still working on that. Now, I'm not too bad concerned with the interior block that they run down the middle of the house, because those are going to be covered up. We're never going to see them. The footer on the outside, and I'm requiring that they lay those blocks up with straps coming up through them. They can tie it to the house. Those piers are going to be covered by vinyl siding or something. We're not going to see them anymore. There's still the interior, where they put those things together, is going to be tied with some strapping. And really, if they consider the strap as a permanent foundation, if they bury those augers in that concrete footing where they're not just pulling up in one place, but when it tries to pull it up, it's going to have to try to pick the whole footing up, then I think they're a little better off. But we certainly, if it doesn't have that DCA sticker in the house, and that's one thing that we look for, they have to provide us with a set of plans that's been stamped by one of the agencies that reviewed those plans. That plan has to be on the state's website. Matter of fact, today they don't even have to provide us a plan, they just have to provide us a plan number, and we can go to the state's website and download the plans from there. But it has to have been approved by the DCA licensed agency. And then the house has to be installed as such. Any work that's done on site to a manufactured building may not be done by a mobile home installer. He can't bring it to the site. I don't care if they hire him to pull it, that's okay. But as far as putting the footings in and setting the house up, that has to be permitted and completed by a licensed Florida contractor. It's a building, it's not a mobile home, and therefore mobile home installers are not allowed to work on it. Yes, sir.
And then, the people who brought that trailer in were from a mobile home place.
Well, that's true, I understand. And some of them utilize, their crews to pull them in. And if the contractor wants to hire that crew to work, as long as he's supervising, that's okay, because he's doing construction work. We can't tell him who can hire and who can't hire. But they can't be the person that does that. He's got to pull a permit, he's got to supervise it. Do you know, what place was it? Dustin Hall.
I got a picture of it.
Okay, let me have a look at that. Because I don't want to, you know, I fought them till I was out tired of talking.
Oh, while he's pulling that out of curiosity's sake, have you seen any of the cities or counties that have been able to basically, I know there's a broad structure for modulars, to bring that structure to an area where they don't have these?
Well, what we did over in Port St. Joe, and of course you can do this, any action that you take has to apply to all buildings, just like we're talking about the garage doors or whatever. We designed, we did some, okay, Wayne Edenfield is a mobile home mover, and he can move. The only way he can set that thing up here, the only way he can set it up, he can actually do the work on it, is if he's working for the contractor. He can't be working for the place that sold the house. He's got to be working for the contractor. And when I run across them, I always have DVDR and worker comp check to see that all that's taking place properly. What we did over there was we created an ordinance that required that we didn't have any rectangular boxes. You had to have some type of architectural, something on the front, a wing walls or a porch or something, some kind of architectural configuration. And of course, we also, due to the nature of Port St. Joe and flood hazards, we also required a solid foundation to anchor the house, foundation wall all the way around the structure. You can't single out modular buildings. Like I said, anything you do has to apply to all buildings. But you can, certainly I'll be glad to get you guys a copy of that ordinance.
I would like to see it.
And you can look that over, because it's, like I said, my personal opinions, I just have to keep my mouth shut. But it's, you know, I actually in 1979, back when I was able to work, went over to Cocoa Beach, Florida, and I was working for Benchmark Homes out of Tallahassee. Took a contract with them, and my job was, after they set these modular buildings, I had to go inside and tie them together and seam the carpet and tie the electrical, plumbing, and mechanical and all that stuff together, and do some hard coat. They used hard coat plaster on their interiors, and I had to do that plaster work. And I didn't know how to do it, so I hired a guy to teach me, because the contract was about a month off, so by then I could do it myself. And these were two-story townhouses, came in four sections, four townhouses in one. They went out there and they laid a foundation wall, and they brought these things in and they flew them in there with a crane and set them all together, tied them all together, and we tied them to the foundation. And you know, you couldn't ask for a better looking building anywhere you go. I mean, you can do that. The industry on the on-frame modulars, they tend to say that it saves, the end result is a savings to the customer. They don't have to pay for all. I personally don't believe that. I've put in a lot of foundations in my life. Physically, I've been on the end of the shovel. I've been on the end of the trowel laying block. I know what it takes to put one in. But they say that it saves money. So, you know, whether it does or it doesn't. You know, we'll just see if we can't get you something that's going to get you something that's more pleasing for the communities. I don't disagree with the gentleman here. Yes, ma'am.
On your work order, it says that it's in a flood zone. The second line in from 98.
Okay.
Okay, I thought anything in a flood zone had to be on pilings.
Well, it depends on the flood elevation. And of course, they'd argue that these are pilings, basically, they're shoulder. Our code says, the city code says, as required by FEMA, that the top of your finished floor has to be a minimum 1 foot above the base flood elevation. Now, where you see these houses on pilings, some people will decide to just raise them up where they can park underneath, or sometimes you're in what we call a V zone. The flood elevation is much higher like down on the beach. So they have to get those things up, and the top of their first finished floor has to be 2 foot above, no, I'm sorry, the top of their first structural member has to be 2 foot above base flood elevation. So different things for different areas, but 2 blocks off 98, probably, you know, about like they normally. You can't put wood within closer than 18 inches of ground. Well, you can't get up under one of those things to work with 18 inches, so they're gonna be 3 or 4 blocks high, you know, damage. Well, anyway, without telling you all I know, that's about as much.
Go ahead, Lon.
Is this place being installed as a HUD home or a modular?
We're going, supposedly it's a modular home. We have approved no HUD homes to be placed in Mexico Beach, guaranteed.
Okay. If it's got a HUD sticker inside, then it's a HUD home.
If there's a HUD sticker inside, I promise you, by dark tomorrow, it'll be out of here.
Again, the code enforcement officer said he looked and there was a HUD sticker on it.
Well, now, he might have mistaken. This is DCA sticker lists the type of construction, which is type 5, unprotected, it's wood frame. It will list the wind category, wind exposure category is built for, which should be 130 mile an hour wind speed minimum. Usually, most of them there are being built to 140, 150. It'll also give some other information on there, the plan number that applies to the house and all that. It probably kind of looks like a HUD sticker, but it's not. And I bet you. I mean, they know better. They know all the industry in this part of the country. Wayne Edfield knows me better than to bring them mobile home in the city of Mexico Beach.
But we will check it.
Yeah, I'm gonna eyeball that myself.
All right, questions for both? Both, thanks for coming.
Yes, thank you.
And appreciate the update, the information. That is something that we all get. I understand Leonard's now. I fully understand their concerns, as others have come through the years. But
Absolutely, and we thank y'all. We've been here a long time. We're part of the family, you know.
thanks again.
Thank you, and if you need me, call me. I'll get you that information.
Please.
All right.
Thank you very much.
I have a question, not necessarily for Bo, but if the owners said that they were going to put a boat in there when he wasn't around, or the golf cart, what is our next step to prevent that from happening?
We will, when we issue the CO, on that CO will be that boat storage only in the structure. And that's, if somebody sees a car in there, code enforcement can write a
And that's
citation.
only if it's not occupied?
Only if the building's not occupied, yes, sir, we can include that in the clause.
But how can we keep it from not having it in there when it's not occupied? I mean, because that's what he built, it appears what they built it for, was for storage.
According to Bo, the way the law's written, it's not a motored home.
It's not a motor vehicle.
I mean, motored vehicle.
Not a motor vehicle. In other words, he can't store cars in there, period, because that building is not constructed as a garage. That portion of the building.
But if he's storing his boat in there,
I understand, and some boats have got a lot more gasoline than the cars do, but they don't meet the definition of a motor vehicle.
okay. But anything that Mexico Beach, anything that Mexico
No, ma'am,
Beach
he has to
can
finish.
do
We
to
have to do
prevent
an
that.
ordinance.
What?
We have to do an ordinance that
to
prohibits.
Well, what you
prevent
should do is not allow garages.
Well, that's
Well, yeah,
true.
That's what you should do.
That's true. Change the door. That
We
would be,
we'll address that.
I understand.
I get it.
That's a different colored horse. I understand.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, number 2, Public Works Director.
I'd like to take that one off, Mayor.
Okay? Number 3, Public Works Director.
Number 3, this is the paper I handed out
Right.
previous council meeting for the Mexico Beach Canal boat slip / dock rules and regulations. And this is just to see if anybody has anything they'd like to put in, anything they'd like to take out, just, you know, get some feedback from you guys and see what you think about it.
All right, I assume everyone has had a chance to look at those. See, George was here. Is George still here?
Yes, sir.
Where, there you are. Have you had a chance to look at these?
I have it, and I've reviewed it.
Do you have any comments?
I think that any of these or all of these requirements here or rules and regulations are perfectly acceptable. I don't see anything wrong with any of them.
And that was my feelings too. I thought they were,
Question.
it was simple, concise, to the point. I didn't see anything in there ambiguous that would allow some of our so-called boat storage people down there to interpret them differently.
Tried to cover everything, yes, sir.
So why don't we, are there any comments or changes and/or?
Look good to me.
Then this needs to be incorporated in terms of, I guess we can just pass these, now that I think about it, because it's not an ordinance, it's just regulations for that pertain to the marina.
Would it need a resolution?
I don't think so. Well, Adrian, this doesn't require anything other than that we adopt the boat slip rules and be done. So I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adopt as presented. Is there any opposition to that?
Nope.
All right. Not you, Jerry?
No.
Okay. All right, that carries. We need to get these, obviously we will pass these out now that they are formally part of and make sure that people,
I will
that, you know,
distribute them to anyone that is down at the docks.
Right.
That has a boat in there and discuss it with them if it
Right.
becomes necessary and abide by these rules.
Very good.
Is there a place, do we need to have a sign with them on or anything, and that we would just place a sign in a prominent area?
Sign with all that?
No.
No.
Okay, just ask.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think giving it to everybody as they rent a slip would be more than sufficient.
Okay. I ask a lot of questions, pardon me.
No problem.
Nothing wrong with asking questions. Oh, there it is. Okay, number 4.
Walk-in cooler down there at the boat ramp. We discussed about it in the past. Still waiting on Duke Energy and the St. Joe Company to get their wording as needed for the utility easement. I just wanted to bring this up one more time to make sure that we're on the same page. As far as to which one it is that we want to order. You got the first one here, that is just the cooler itself. There's nothing else involved. But then the second one that sits on a trailer. And the other thing is, I think we should get the, if you look on the first page here, we should definitely have the side door incorporated with that for people to use. So just be on the same, make sure we're all on the same page. Which one do you guys prefer over the other? So I can get a firm, hard price. This is what it's
If we
gonna be
have
out
the
the
money,
door.
my choice is the trailer.
We have the funds for either one.
I would.
And the reason being, there's gonna be a storm, we're gonna get some surges, if it's just sitting there, we're gonna have to end up buying a piece of equipment, go down there and get it moved, get it jacked up, something.
No, I agree.
If we can move it, we might use it somewhere else.
Yep.
I gotta do some digging to find out if, and maybe one of y'all can answer, I don't know, this question that popped in my head the other day, is if we do get the one on the trailer, once we get it in place, is that something that we have to jack up and tie down? Like jack the trailer up, get the tires off the ground to stabilize it? Or just, it would be fine as is?
Probably have to put some jacks on the back of it, to
That's what I'm
stabilize it.
thinking.
Yeah, you can just cover the tires.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean,
I like the idea of the trailer.
And for the pole barn, we've discussed the pole barn out there. We've gotten 3 prices that range from $5,500 to $9,000.
we just
Whatever is.
We just need to be ready to go when we get some pipe.
Well, that's what.
Which won't be
getting my
this
ducks in a row.
season evidently. Still, we'll be ready for when they.
Trailer and
Trailer.
walk-in cooler, that's what
Trailer.
we're looking at.
Trailer.
Trailer.
Even Rex said so.
All right, canal, boat ramp. Number 5, leave no trace ordinance, and number 6 is beach vendor ordinance. These are the drafts that Nick sent to us.
Lengthy drafts.
Also, back, I guess, a week ago, he sent an email out to everyone. He and Mel obviously had discussed, I guess, our feedback. I don't know what all our feedback was, but from his email, without Mel here, I can't speak to exactly what got said, but it appears that if we don't mind, let's look at the vendor first, beach vendor one draft. This will be our first chance at, I mean, we've had ample time to look at it, be familiar with what it says. I'll just tell you, my comments to him were that it was a lot of unnecessary language. And I'll be honest with you, found it confusing. But I've read it multiple times, and I think if you just get to the meat and potatoes of it, I guess it says what we wanted to say. I do have some questions. And my first one is that before right above section number 5, it says the goods permitted by this ordinance to be placed upon the beach shall not be displayed or stored within 30 feet landward of the wet sand. I'm not sure I understand where 30 feet came from, or what's, I mean, there's places on the beach that 30 feet's the beach.
I don't think we have 30 feet in some of the areas.
That's what
Yeah.
But I think in it was, or whatever I read in one of the discussions, it was to make sure emergency vehicles get through. I don't know if 30 feet's correct, or if it could be smaller, but I do agree from the standpoint, we probably need to have something in there that says there's a pathway for emergency vehicles, whether it's 30
the
or
footage
one.
concerned.
Yeah.
That's what concerned me.
And I
The
don't.
fact that we need to get down our beach,
Then what would be the least amount that we
just
would
be
need?
unobstructed from emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
And it's variable based upon the tide too.
Right.
Well, that's true. You have to look, I guess, at the tide,
Right.
furthest in, but from your point of view, what would be the minimum that would be needed so we could get emergency vehicles in and out?
You just say.
Just that you can do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just
I
that
The
you
fact
can do
that
it.
emergency vehicles can get through any time.
The largest vehicle we have is the SUV vehicle for,
I mean,
so
Is what, I'm sorry?
the largest vehicle we
Right.
have is the ESU vehicle, so that's probably what, 15 feet, and that's giving you a couple feet on it, so 15, 20 feet.
see, I wouldn't put any footage. I would just put that there needs to be access for emergency vehicles.
Right.
I don't think we have a beach
I agree. with
large
that.
enough,
I mean,
wide
that just
enough
gets-
that,
Because if you give a number based upon the tide, then that number's.
Yeah. We don't need to be down there with a tape measure.
Just state that you have to have sufficient room for.
That's right.
emergency
That's
vehicles.
For any emergency vehicle.
Yeah.
And the other question I had was, do y'all have, after the section 6, up at the top, it says the purpose of these exemptions? Do y'all have that? Or am I wrong?
yes.
I have it, yeah.
I just wrote a question mark. I don't really understand. I don't see any exemptions. I didn't understand it. I got confused. That's like, maybe that's not even supposed to be in there.
The exemptions, I think, are the ones following it, because it said limited exemptions. So I think that.
Oh, you think that paragraph is related to number 7?
Right, is
Yeah.
starting number 7.
Probably needs.
Oh,
maybe
well, that's the
just-
only one that has any language
Yeah.
prior to the
Right.
section.
Should
That's
be the
what
purpose
confused
of the
me.
following exemption.
Okay, all right, well,
Yeah.
whatever it is, I didn't understand the purpose of that language. And then under number 7, it said booth stalls and storage boxes used by a holder of a beach vending permit to conduct business or stored items are exempt from the city's Leave No Trace. That's the only thing, yet in his email to us, he talked about that Leave No Trace, an exemption wouldn't be part of, it would just be if you had a beach vending permit, would be his recommendation for, so I really didn't understand
Well,
number 7, to be honest with you.
Well,
I'm confused.
Number 7 is, when I read it, I didn't really have a problem with it, is that we've in the past have said our vendors can have storage boxes and booths and so forth. And I think he's just bringing that in as, that's what we've done. And that's kind of what we've asked, is that he writes what we've done in the past, not put anything new in my understanding, and I may be wrong, Al, that we've left it, we've exempted some of these things in general from our vendors. And if I remember from the email, I don't know what we want to put size of booths or anything like that, but we've exempted it in the past. I think this just clarifies, it puts in the document that certain things can be exempt. I don't know, that's how I took it.
But he says in here that it is, if you are have a possession of a beach vending permit, that under the beach vending permit, the councils should decide how broad of an exemption that permit allows. So I was confused under this when it says limited exemption. I guess it's just for our discussion to what is exempt.
Yeah, I think so.
I guess that's what he's
And
saying.
some of us, and I think there's been some comments, should we say, okay, the box, kind of like we did on the canal, we put sizes of boxes on the canal and made a specific size. This is open, should we leave it open for booths or whatever to be whatever the owner of the real estate that's next to these vendors want it to be? Or should we say, okay, if you have a booth, it can't be more than 4 feet by 4 feet? Yeah, I agree. I think it was a place to leave it open for us to discuss.
See, my opinion of the beach vendor, I like that he is using the landlord owner as the source by which governs that in his email. That's what he suggested. I think that's, as far as us sitting here saying you can have a booth 2 by 2, 4 by 4, 3, I don't see why we need to do that.
The only time I would think we would need even to do anything like that would be a maximum. You can't have anything bigger than the size of this room, which would give plenty of room. But whether we'd even want to do that, I have no idea.
I hear what you're saying, and right now, I don't think we've had problems with the size of things, but who knows if 5 or 10 years down the road, if that's what we're looking at,
And at the
I don't
same
know.
token,
But
if
do
we
we wanna
pass
get that
this,
nitpicking?
it's here 5 years down the road,
Yeah.
the next council has something to work with that they can adjust.
Nick's comment on that is, Mel and I were unsure what to suggest and thought the council might prefer to rely, this is in reference to size and number of booths, boxes, storage on the beach, is what this is, might rely on the upland owner to control over proliferation of booths and boxes, and I totally agree. If there's a business that's operating behind the El Governor, and they end up putting so much stuff down there that the El Governor's gonna say, wait a minute, we don't.
It affects their
tolerate that."
business, so yeah.
Okay. All right, other questions?
I have a question, and Hector, you can help me out here, because are you selling some protective oils and creams now currently? All right, but I really have a problem with adding that in as something that they can do.
It's not a retail store then.
Right,
No.
it's not a retail store. You know, and if it was already done and we've been allowing it, that's one thing, but why start that?
Scratch it out, I agree.
Well,
No problem.
and beach photography, number 12.
That is provided as a service by Mr. Vasquez.
All
Out of
right,
curiosity's sake,
thank you.
not an argument, no argument, just curious, what kind of photography?
Well, obviously, when they rent the vehicles that he has, that he
Oh.
provides, they can take pictures.
Okay.
and
Oh, okay.
have memories of.
Memories
Oh, all
of,
right,
okay, I was
okay,
just
all right,
curious, thank you.
that's- Yeah, thanks. Then I have no problem with that. We've been allowing it before, but
Yeah.
the sunscreen,
Y'all understood all those whereases, did you?
oh, sure.
Yeah, close.
No, CDC used to give out sunscreen on the beach.
Okay.
Well, that's okay if they want to do that, but they're not selling it.
We're talking about
You
a
know,
vendor
if-
here, someone that has
Right.
a permit or
Yeah.
has permission, that's what,
Question.
yeah, go, yes.
Yes, to follow up with Ms. Albrecht, in number 10, there seems to be an exception to kiteboards. Is there any explanation as to why that exception or that cutout has been made?
Yes,
I
that's,
mean-
I don't know. I do not know.
are we doing it now? Are we renting kiteboards now?
Yes.
Okay, didn't know that.
Yeah, I wondered, I
maybe
didn't know, I don't know why that's, I don't know where that list,
To the
I-
extent that there are
Bay
things that are
County.
coming up with these drafts, if I may, my interest in coming to the board, before the board today, is that as at least most of you know, although Mr. Kathy, you were not mayor at the time, there had been a town hall meeting that was scheduled to take place on April 19th. Obviously, due to some intervening events, it was canceled. My question, and at least my primary interest on behalf of the client, is to revisit that issue and confirm with the council if you intend on having that kind of feedback from the community. If you are going to reschedule that town hall meeting to address these things, particularly since it seems that you've added a vendor aspect to the beach in regulatory form that seems to be linked, at least by the reading of those drafts, although I haven't had the benefit of reading the drafts, that those two things are linked together. And now that the action that's been taken, obviously by the council, is on the heels of a court order providing you direction, and given that the fact that these things were brought to the council by members of the community, I'm just curious as if that link is going to be shored up in the sense that before you go making changes, you've all indicated that there are certain aspects of the business that are not known at this point, that there just be a better communication by giving that platform to the community to express what they think these ordinances are about and what their goals are, and to make sure that the things that you don't know, because you may not be actively participating on a day-to-day basis in those businesses, that the folks that are enjoying them will bring those concerns to you, and you'll have a better base, and at least you'll be more
yes, ma'am,
informed.
I understand, and when, I can only speak for me, but when we do an ordinance, a new ordinance, there's a process that it goes through. This is one of them. If there are people, this agenda's been published. There were people interested in knowing what was on that agenda, they'd have been here. When we have a first reading, whenever that is, it'll be published. The town hall meeting that got canceled, why, it doesn't matter, it didn't happen. But there's now enough history, at least for me, to understand what we're trying to do with our beach vendors, that if those that are interested in coming, once they see our agenda, and they see that beach businesses, beach vendors, or leave no traces on there, they'll have ample opportunity, 60 days worth of opportunity to come and give their opinion.
And I appreciate.
So I don't foresee personally the need to have a workshop public hall meeting, now that Leave No Trace, we've got what, close to 5 months under our belts to, that's my answer.
And I
But-
know since you've been mayor, we've had one very good meeting that was published that went over town.
That's right, we sure
You know,
did.
Leave No Trace, very, very careful and listened very, very carefully to our citizens.
Yeah.
You know, we are open, we will be open as far as these. I agree with the mayor, that's, our process is to be open and listen. For all citizens, business or permanent residents, non-permanent residents. You know, we're here to serve all.
Well, my suggestion for today is to us, this is our first shot out of the box at what's on here. Get our notes made, come back, put it on the agenda for August the, is it 12th? 8th, whenever. And Nick will be here, Mel will be back, and finalize to Nick what we want on the paper.
Yeah, on this one, there were very few things, I think, you know, scratch out a couple.
Yeah,
And
I don't
Can we
see-
get our city clerk to capture those?
Right,
so
and
that-
you know, I've said before, the hardest part of anything is getting started.
Yeah.
So once we get it on paper, a draft, what we will present for a first reading, everyone that's interested will have a chance to see what that is. Okay,
On section 3,
section 3. All right,
third line, if a city application form is available, I don't think it should be if. I think it should be the city should have an application form. It's third.
oh yeah, it should say I agree.
Yeah, it should not be if,
All right.
that's all.
Adrian, you keeping up with, are you making some notes on one of what we're talking? I won't do that.
Keep that in straight.
Oh, sorry. Yes, ma'am.
Is there somewhere in the beach vendor ordinance that they have to, or that they're required to carry any type of liability insurance?
Not at this time.
So if I'm out there and one of their jet skis runs into me, there's no insurance?
Well, there's no requirement in the city for
I'm asking,
ABC.
We had a business in Texas and we were required to carry a $2 million liability policy. Is there anything like that? Because people are using sailboats and jet skis and.
But I don't know of any regulatory requirement for ABC grocery store that the city requires. I think they would be amiss if they didn't choose to carry liability insurance, but there's no city requirement that,
And that's what I'm asking, can something?
well, it's not written in here.
Okay.
Does the
It's
state
not-
of Florida require that?
I don't,
State of Florida requires you to have it?
Yes.
the state, that's, okay, there you go. Their style of business requires that.
Okay, I was wondering, because I know in Panama City, there was the issue with insurance with the scooters. And that
Oh,
was
yeah.
becoming a big issue, and I,
That's right.
okay.
All right, so on beach vendors, as far as those few little, and there may, between now and August, there still may be another, but for right now, we're gonna go with that, what we just talked about. Okay. All right, going back to the draft Leave No Trace.
I know that Nick had indicated he understood that it's 7 to 7, not 7 to 9 in his memo.
I'll be honest with you, I'm not sure.
We passed that up in that meeting. We didn't get a consensus.
No,
so
no, there was none. I don't think we need to overthink Leave No Trace. We're doing a good job with it.
The only thing I saw that kind of bothered me was over under 2 exemptions, item 4. It says if the city knows, I think it should be knows, it said no, you know, who owns the item, basically we have to call them, and then we have to hold it 2 weeks for them.
It's too long.
I don't know where any of that came from.
That I
David.
don't think needs to be there. I mean, it
No.
should be their responsibility, not ours.
I don't think
No,
I don't think we should have to call them.
No.
The other thing is, if this first year, they have appreciated if it was picked up, they could come back. But should we consider now next year being the second year, charge them $10 or $20 or $25 to come pick up their things, because somebody from the office has to leave the office and go back in the yard, or somebody from the yard has to leave whatever they're doing, go back in the yard with the people and pick up the items and make sure that they're picking up what they said rather than 5 items instead of 1. Just my thought, but I agree with you that the other part.
And as far as that goes, I'm kind of curious. I know right now they're giving them 48 hours. Is that too
It's
long?
random.
Okay.
They said they're gonna try to keep it 2 days. I don't know if they keep it.
But it says
a week.
14
All right.
days.
It
says 14 days.
Yeah, in this. No, I don't.
I don't like
That
any of that.
needs to come out.
No, I don't like that either.
How about the last,
I think it's
almost
shorter.
under section, I guess, here you right after, in the event of an item of personal property. It's the next page after what Bill was talking about. Section 3, enforcement. In the event that a personal property is attended at the time, if repeat offenders.
What section you want?
Section 3, enforcement.
Unfortunate, okay.
You know, by removing personal property from the beach, if somebody is there, you give it back to them. However, under the circumstances, an item of personal property will not be removed from the beach except in instances of repeat offenders.
How are you gonna know who
That's
the
my
repeat
question.
offenders
You
are?
know, Phillips' crew might be different every
That's right.
day.
That means
so-
you have to keep a list and names and all that to know who the repeat offenders
Yeah.
are. I don't think that's a good idea.
And then we hold them that for 10 days. So now,
think we
one
just
part
shoot
of the
it.
document's 14 days,
We
a
shoot
10-day.
That's what I mean, we're just overthinking.
Yeah.
This is written with.
Try to make it
with-
as simple
with-
as possible.
Yeah, I mean,
It's written by a lawyer. That's part of the problem.
Can't trust these guys.
we don't need.
I don't think so either, but
See, this has got more excessive language than what we need.
we only have 4 pages of 5 of whereas.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I know, he wore me out reading whereas.
I wonder if they do a special course on
I
whereas.
think so. Why don't we do this?
Did we agree on a time change to 9 p.m.?
No, we did not.
That's
No.
in here too.
I know it's in there, but it wasn't agreed on.
Okay.
And I know
We
the
talked
memo
about it.
I saw from Nick, he said,
We can-
yeah, I know it's wrong.
Okay.
Why not leave it like that?
No.
Why not?
Sunset's better than 9 p.m.
I don't see it as an issue now. It was in the original ordinance at 7 to 7.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, sometimes the best we do just ain't gonna be good enough for some people, so we just have to deal with it.
Perfect.
That's the way I feel about it. We just make
I
it,
think 7 to 7.
so leave it at 7 to 7 and move on. All right, which one of us is keeping up with all of these things that we're talking about?
I've got a sheet, but I'm sure there's things that are missing.
I mean, who is tasked to do that job?
That'd be
How
the-
about you make notes on yours?
That'd be the clerk.
Well, I would tell you, that shaky hand bothers me.
I've got most of it.
You can always read my article.
Wait a minute,
There you
I've
go.
read your articles from time to time.
Yeah, it'll be, it won't be with any slanted views. It'll be just as we say it. Thank you.
No fake news there.
All right, well then,
I think we could put it together for first look.
yeah, we put it on the agenda all of us have our notes,
Right.
Yeah.
and when Nick's here, and with Adrian's help, getting what we've said, we'll have another chance to do that in a little more condensed version, maybe.
Yeah.
How's that?
Yeah, yeah.
Sound good?
Sounds good.
Okay. Any questions on either of those before we move on?
The only, I just want to confirm the council's intention then is to put forward the draft that is going to be presented.
At the next meeting, we're going to try to finalize what will be still a draft, but one that we can look at again and ensure that the draft that we get is what we say we want.
So at a minimum, this will be talked about 3 more times before it's approved.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be ample time.
And at what point will those drafts be circulated for reading? When I
Anytime you want to log into the website and pull it up.
Yep. Yes.
I voted for leave no trace because it's nice to see you go out on the beach on a weekend and there's not a bunch of broken frames and all this. And this leave no trace is just driving me crazy right now. The citizens of Mexico Beach voted for it. Yes, it should be tweaked a little, but this is ridiculous. It's going on and on and on about leave no trace after we all voted for it.
Yeah, I think we're tired of it too.
Okay. All right, help me here, where am I? All right, beach,
Budget
Budget.
discussion number 7.
okay, thank you. City Administrator, what we do, Adrian, you got us something?
All right, let me get to where I need to be.
Oh. 75%.
Ms. Connie?
Yeah.
That situation you spoke to me about earlier?
Yeah.
That's been resolved.
Good. Thank you. Yeah.
All right, your cover sheet, you should have some gray area. That's the stuff that's changed. So,
Wait a minute, is this the cover sheet?
yes.
It is very light.
And for some reason, the gray is not showing on this screen very well.
Well, it's not showing on our prints either.
For those of you that weren't here at our budget meeting, I guess last week, this is just a continuation of some items that were some unknowns and some changes that we were having to make. This is, well, I mean, we've been through this before. Some of you may not have been here. I don't know. That's right.
I'm
That's
the
right.
only one out.
There you go. There you go. I take that back. All right. All right, you can go ahead.
Well, if I could figure out how to rotate this so everybody could see it. On the second page under revenue, that's where we're starting. I don't know how to flip this. Do you know how to flip this?
What are you in?
It's off the website. I can't flip it.
I can't read
Probably
it on the
down
screen
there.
that way.
You may have to save it and then bring it back up and rotate it once you get in the, is it up or left? Whoops, wrong way. You know, I rotated it on.
I can rotate it on mine.
Yeah, I did too.
Guess what?
Guys,
Here's my rotate.
Computer, you can't live without them. But they are so frustrating. And you know what? These kids know exactly
Oh, I know.
what
I
they're
can bring
doing.
my great time.
And they probably fix it. Lordy.
Yeah, but Grayson's already.
Yay!
You got it.
All right.
All right, Aiden.
Sorry, Philip.
Very good, very good.
We have rotated.
All right, just tell us what we're
First
looking at.
change on this page is the local option gas tax. At our previous meeting, I didn't have a hard number from the state yet.
All right, what page are you
I'm on the
on?
second page of your packet.
Okay.
Revenue, first revenue page. Number 2, local option gas tax.
I think you were on the other one.
Right here?
Yeah, you're right up here.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
That is now a solid
Right
number.
there. Second one.
Oh, okay, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad.
That 72,100 is now a concrete number from the state. Further down, under communication service tax, that also is a concrete number from the state. That one actually went down. Under MBARA grant, $60,000 has been added. They have applied for an FWC grant. We traditionally have gotten them. So to prevent a budget amendment next year, we're just going to put it in. Doesn't affect anything on the overall. It's a pass-through.
So that
State,
one, okay.
state revenue sharing, that's a solid number now of $35,545. And then the half-cent sales tax is also a solid number at $118,373. So that are your first page changes. On page 2.
Before you leave the first page.
Yes, sir.
I talked about it, or I suggested it. It's something on the utility tax and the half-cent sales tax, that we return those to the paving and maintenance fund. I know that is done by resolution, but
we'll do that.
I just don't want to lose track of that unless needs to be discussion about that.
The intent is to write that up when we.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to bring that up. Go ahead.
On page 2, there is no changes. Page 3, elected officials, no changes. No changes under administrator. No changes under clerk. The next change is under legal.
And I do have a question for you, Lee. Administrator and clerk.
Yes.
On the salaries.
Yes.
Are those also included as the 3% raise, or are those taken out?
They are in there, but I can take them out. It doesn't matter. It's going to change about $2,000. So.
Well, I think we ought to at the table to talk about that. I am not in favor of looking at the salaries that we're paying in those two positions based on what happened last year. I don't see that. I'm not for a 3% increase in those two contract salary positions. We're under administrator and clerk.
Come back up.
They got significant raises last year, and I think we have to be careful with just blanket 3% raises, especially in those two categories.
Do you recommend any raise at all?
No, I do not. Look at what happened. I mean, you have to just look historically at where we're going with this. And, those are, I just think they're sufficient this year.
Adrian, what's their current cost of living increase, do you know?
I do not.
Well, I'm not in favor of no raise.
Say at least minimum cost of living, because that would just put them equal. I mean, it's not going to be much, I know that, but
Yeah, I
still.
don't know what the current cost
I'd
of
have to
living
look it
is.
up.
For the 3% for the other departments, he was basing it as a 2% cost of living with a 1% merit that not all are going to receive, but it was budgeted 3, not necessarily everybody was getting that. So that's how that number was derived. As far as Mel and my salary, that is council direction, council vote. So we can remove it, whatever you want to do.
My feeling is I do not like the idea of no raise. I do not have a problem with 3%. If cost of living, if we found that out, if that might be something to consider.
Well, again, I wouldn't like to leave it where it is, because cost of living then actually decreases the salary. So I would say at least a minimum would be cost of living. If we wanted to do more, then that would be, I think, we'd have to look at that, but at least minimum cost of living, because I don't want them to lose.
No, I don't either.
I don't know, I'm waiting. Anybody else? I mean,
I'm thinking.
okay.
Do we have to make that
Now, leave
decision
it in
right
there
now?
for right now, we'll come back out, y'all know what's in there, and we just, it's not, you know, somebody, we can make a formal decision down the road.
You don't need to do it now. Like I said, it will change about $3,000. It won't affect the millage, whether it's in or
Okay.
out.
Okay.
No. All right, go ahead.
All right, find my other spreadsheet again. All right, legal, that's where I was at. Everybody there?
Yes.
The legal changed from 50 to 40, as we discussed last time. P&Z unchanged. General government, under vehicle replacement transfer. At the last budget meeting, we talked about adding a amount of money we're gonna set aside to replace vehicles over time instead of having to worry about bonding it or finding it. This is a $30,000 allocation to set aside into that replacement fund for all public works vehicles that are not in the enterprise fund. So that 30,000 is a new change.
And that'll be in a special savings account.
Right, dedicated fund. It'll be created.
Dedicated
We don't
account.
have one, but I'll be
Okay.
making one.
Yeah.
How much trouble would it be to put page numbers on this in the future?
We just talked about that last week. I gotta find out. I'm assuming there's a way to do it in Adobe.
Sure, it'd make things a lot quicker.
All right. Next page is fire. Okay, in your package is the next page, police or fire. Police. Going to police, under machinery and equipment, it should say $12,000. That is the new computers and the addition of the $7,000 in IT upgrades we spoke about at the last hearing. And then under there is a vehicle replacement transfer of $15,000. That is the money set aside again, just like that other 30 to start replacing these vehicles, set money aside. Those are your two changes to that fund.
The 15,000 and what else?
And the $7,000 for the IT upgrades. We had added a evidence storage building and equipment storage. Remember this discussion? And we put it in. We have since taken it out, as we've had discussions at staff meetings that they're going to utilize some space in the old fire station. And if we are serious about getting that project done, why spend the money on a storage building when we're going to replace it and have it in the future? So that's why that's been removed.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Fire and ESU should be unchanged. Code enforcement should also be unchanged.
I'll screw that there.
General maintenance should be unchanged. Road and street has a change. This is the $100,000 to set aside for paving projects. We're not concrete saying which paving projects, but there is a list of ideas on the bottom that says which ones need to be done, pending what we get done this year, and giving us $100,000 to move forward next year. And that was the one we spoke about last meeting as well.
Right.
Everybody's with me? All right.
Yeah, but that money is.
It's in and out.
It's an in and out. That's
Yep.
not an increase in.
It still shows in the budget
I
because
know,
it's
I
expensive, but
understand
yes.
that part, but
Does not
for
affect
those
your
that are here listening, it's not an increase in revenue for that road paving.
Correct.
It's not new money.
Does not affect their millage, does not affect any of that.
Okay.
Under canal, $30,000 for dredge repairs. That's to continue our maintenance and repairs on the dredge, as we spoke about last time as well. Vehicle maintenance is unchanged. Parks and Rec has a few additions. The $60,000 out for the MBA grant, we brought it in because we're going to get the grant. We've got the expense for it to go out here. It does not affect the overall. And then we have the addition of a 6th and 14th Street walkovers for $6,000 and trash cans for $5,000 for the beach that were from last time. We're with me?
No, I'm sorry, I'm a slow learner, just bear
You're
with
okay.
me. I'm like Jerry, if we could put something on them.
Are you looking for
I'm looking at
perks?
vehicle maintenance, where are
Are you
we?
looking for perks?
No wonder.
Where are you on capital
Yeah, looks like
expense?
this page.
Total parks? We're on parks, right? What were you talking about?
Okay.
Oh, I got you down there.
So it's 50,000 for Parker Pavilion, 50,000 for Parker Playground, 6,000 for the walkovers, 5,000 for the trash cans, for a total of 111,000. 100,000 of that is for that grant money.
Right.
Okay. And then 60,000 grant is also grant money. Moving on to debt, it is unchanged. Our transfers out are unchanged.
Would that have been a good idea to put that on here somewhere, that the 100,000 is grant money?
Sure. I put it where?
Yeah, put an asterisk.
Somewhere here. Where we've got a total of 111,000. Well, by the time I sleep overnight tonight, and get up the next morning and look at that, I'm thinking 111,000.
I can put.
Where's that coming from?
I can put footnotes, but you're gonna have a lot of footnotes because every one of those revenues
Yeah, all those,
correspond.
NBA,
I mean,
there's a lot of
right
grant.
here, if we just went out here in parentheses.
Just for that one or for all of
Yeah,
them?
well, especially for this one, if we just put $100,000 of grant money.
Already done on this draft.
Good.
The next one you see, well, you should see another one, I don't think, but we'll see.
Yeah,
Write it on there, Jerry.
I guess, well, I already did.
Oh, okay. I was just checking with you.
Your debt page is unchanged, your transfers out is unchanged, but we're gonna talk about one thing while we're here. Something you asked us to do at the last meeting was slip fees on the canal, talking about the harbor master, the canal transfer, what we anticipate happening. Mel had planned to write a contract Friday and yesterday. When I spoke to him on the phone last night, he has it almost done. He's just said to let you know it's coming. In the overall scheme of the budget, it doesn't matter. It's an in and an out, because that canal money pays that percentage and then goes into the canal fund. So it's not going to change the budget. So that's just where we're at with that. Which brings us to the cover sheet again, and tells us that we need to generate $1,982,592 in tax revenue to have a balanced budget. The $1 million question is, so what is the millage rate? Our current millage rate is 5.184. If we hold that millage rate at 5.184, we will be budgeting 97.8% of that anticipated revenue, which is a number we're comfortable with if we want to hold it the same.
I want to hold it.
If we get much higher than that, my comfort level changes, but 97.8 I'm confident we're going to get. So with all of those changes and everything that's in there, we can hold the millage at 5.184 and be okay.
And what's your deadline for notifying?
Friday.
This Friday or next Friday?
This Friday.
Okay, so this will be our last, now remember, when you set the millage, it can go down, it can't go up.
Correct.
So,
This is the millage that'll be sent out to all property owners on their tax bill as their preliminary tax.
and in most cases, not all, the evaluations are going up. So, that will be viewed by some that they're gonna be paying more money.
And when we advertise, it does need to be advertised as a tax increase. Even though we're holding the millage the same, it is an increase.
Yes, which is confusing in itself.
It is. We have $27 million of property value more than we had last year. Preliminarily, I'll know next week the actual number.
Well, my review says that the numbers y'all have presented, other than in the few additions that we made, that those are comfortable, that we can operate. And 5.184, I'm satisfied.
Now, from the recommendation list that we were going to talk about again, there are 2 items. It's the inventory storage and the rescue watercraft that are not in. The other 3 are in that budget.
So, other comments? We will need to officially, for Adrian to be able to call our number in, and we've got to take action today. Remember, we can come down, it doesn't mean that we just can't go up.
So we did not include the IT upgrades of the water?
No, that's
Oh, we did,
included, yeah.
okay. Oh, the inventory storage, all right, these 2,
Yeah.
okay.
Yes, sir, I have a comment.
Okay?
I have the privilege, along with the officers of the Mexico Beach Police Department, to be entrusted with the safety and the security of the city. However, our city is drastically changing with the amount of crimes or calls for service that we've received. In front of each of you, I have a statistic breakdowns from 2014 to 2017 of the amount of crimes or calls for service that we have. Keeping in mind, majority of these calls, if not all, are being responded to by one officer. 2017, so far, we've had 2,189 calls for service, of which we've had 3 assault and battery calls, 9 physical disturbance calls, 21 verbal disturbance calls, 8 domestic violence calls, and 9 domestic violence calls that are verbal. Again, majority of these calls, one officer has responded. As recent as 2 weeks ago, we had a situation in one of our businesses here where 12 individuals were fighting and one officer responded. Prior to that, we had a traffic stop. Again, one officer responded to the traffic stop, where 3 subjects in the vehicle were all convicted felons and known to have a drug history. The officer, for his safety, felt it would be detrimental to his safety if he continued the traffic stop, so he allowed the violator to leave. My question is this: I've been informed that the millage rate would only go up .167 if I hired an 8th officer. I am asking the council for an 8th officer. It is $51,000 a year for the officer's salary. I think the calls of service can show that the officer's safety has to be taken into consideration. We have a beautiful city. We have good contact, good rapport with our citizens, but I'm asking the council to take into consideration the officer's safety. I have a big problem with an officer responding to a call that 12 individuals are fighting and one officer is to resolve it. We're not supermen or superwomen. In our minds, we think we might be. We have all the tools that the city has graciously given to us to do our job successfully. But what I don't have is safety for the officer. I'm asking the city council, what is the right amount of money or taxes, and nobody wants to increase taxes, for the safety of an officer? If it would be merely $2 for whatever amount of property value that you have is added, I feel that the amount of work that we can offer the community for public safety, we should also afford that same amount of safety to the officer responding. Thank you.
All right. Chief's request was to add an 8th officer. That's something that's been on the table prior to this meeting. It's been discussed. I've discussed it with him personally. He knows my feelings about that. Other comments before we move any further with the millage rate?
What was your millage rate, the difference?
I was advised by Adrian that he can shore it up .167. He advised that he could verify that.
What would that be?
.167?
Yes, sir.
What would that be for a $250,000 home?
Just a minute.
4175.
$41.75 a year. A lot of people pay almost that for their security for a month.
And on security, yes, sir, I meant to bring that up because I have individuals who had the opportunity to speak with some. The security company, MDT, or whichever provider you wish to carry, they will notify us. So from the time it takes for the security company to be notified, oftentimes the residential homes are unoccupied. They call the caller the property owner. The property owner in turn speaks with them saying that yea or nay that they are or are not on the property. They notify Bay County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff's Department notifies us, and again, one officer responds. If you have four corners of a building and you have a violator violating the property, one officer can only secure the outside of that facility until more officers respond. Granted, as the mayor and I have spoken, it is agreements with other agencies that we can have mutual aid, but we're so far off the trail, it takes 20 minutes, 15 if they're going at a good clip of 85 to 90 miles an hour, then you're dealing with a public safety issue again now with a responding officer. Whereas two officers, I feel that could secure the perimeter and maintain the security of the city.
How many times in a month do you anticipate, or do you feel that the city has been without an officer because he's either tied up in an auto accident, tied up in other things, or taken a prisoner to Bay County?
6 to a dozen times a month.
So
it only
basically,
takes one incident to cause a month.
so 6 to 12 times a month. If we have an accident, we have a burglary, or we have an incident, we would not have anyone here.
That is correct.
And
If
it
we
would-
make an arrest, the city's left unattended for over 2 hours. By the time you do your paperwork, you go to Bay County, drop off.
And in that case, if that was the case, how long would it take, say, Bay County to get over here? You know, because they've got 20 minutes, they would be still notified,
Yes, sir.
y'all are on the way.
Because we notify our dispatch when
And
we leave in the city.
For
So
what we're
dispatch
saying
knows.
is basically, if you have a $250,000 home, or what you're saying, sorry, for $51 a year,
Yes, sir.
we would be covered.
Yes, sir. And during the day shift, it was brought up, the captain going back to shift, foregoing his responsibilities to assist me as administrative and dealing with our IT problems. The captain could cover a shift. If he goes back to working the 12-hour shift, he's only here half the time. So it's more beneficial for the captain to stay on day shift, be the second officer in addition to myself on day shift, if the day shift has to have a need to have a second officer respond. So it'd be primarily during the evening or the night hours.
Nationwide, do you know what the, I guess, major item that has caused death of officers?
Officer safety, domestics.
Domestic
Yes.
response?
The average poll that we recently pulled, it says 2.5 officers per 1,000 to 1,100. Well, right now, our population is 1,196. So we more than exceed. I don't see where they get the 2.5. I'm assuming a reserve
Well,
officer.
it's those families that have 3.5
Exactly.
people.
But I think the safety of the officer has to be taken into consideration. The 2 officers that recently left doesn't have a complaint with the money. Granted, that could be higher. Because it costs an officer $250 a month to drive to work because we do not have take-home cars. So out of the amount of money that the officer's making, they're still spending $250 to come to work. And they're not complaining about that. Granted, that would be nice if we could have a program where we at least give them $125 towards that drive. But that's not the complaint. The complaint is doing traffic stops by yourself, going to a call by yourself. Most recently, the altercation by yourself. No, we're not Superman or Superwomen. We think we might be. You know, we have the tools and the gadgets, and we carry the sidearms and the tasers and everything the city supported us. We even have the ballistic vests to prevent. However, a punch to the face is still a punch to the face. So that's why I'm asking for consideration for the 8th officer. Granted, we are in the process of still hiring an officer because we're not up to staff.
Adrian, would we still be in our comfort range?
Absolutely not.
Okay. Or would we have to raise it to?
5.351. Your current advertisement for 5184 is a tax increase of 6.31%. This would be a tax increase of 9.74.
So I asked, how much is a tax worth for the safety of the community and the officer? Nobody wants to raise taxes. I don't want to raise taxes. But we're also, and as I've shown, the kinds of crimes have raised. You know, the city of Mexico Beach, we do want it to be the hometown feel. You know, but the safety of the community has to come first. The crimes are on a rise. I can show you statistically. I can show you what the crimes are. We've had an attempted murder here. One officer responded. It was 20 minutes before 25 minutes actually, because I was the first responding officer coming from Springfield. We've had shots fired at the residence with a firearm. We've had 2 armed robberies, resulting in each of these, the subjects were captured. We're pending 1 case right now, but the other ones, the individuals pled guilty. That's 3. 3? Correct. So, we do have officers that go above and beyond for the officer of that, for their safety. I'm asking for the safety. I think it's right.
I know we've had this request for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Adrian, what would be the millage rate if we went with it again?
5.351.
And if we don't?
5.184.
I'd like to hear from the citizens that are out here. We don't have many.
I was hoping more would have been.
Yes, ma'am, you raise your hand, or go ahead.
I will give them $51 a year for another police officer. We walk on the canal beach with our dogs, and we have been starting to find needles down there. That brings an element into town that I do not want here. I would not go on a call by myself as a police officer, would you?
I'm not a police officer.
What's going on in the United States now, would you do any of these stops by yourself? And I think that's how you need to present it to the citizens. How many people would go to a domestic violence call by themselves? How many times do you want to pull up on a car and get out and walk up to this car by yourself? That's just craziness to put these people's lives in danger. This is a different world.
You know, and
I know we don't think that in Mexico Beach, but it is a different world.
And the last time this came up, I said then, I
Gave
think
one last
that we need another
We
officer.
gave him one more last.
I can't imagine going to a call where there's a fight among 12 people, and I'm going to go take care of that by myself. I don't care how big and burly you are, or what you're armed with. That's not a good ratio. 12 to 1 is not a good ratio. You know, and I see Mexico Beach changing, and I see people coming in that are
Are there others?
are more aggressive around.
I would say the majority of the people that live here don't realize this either.
No, I didn't realize that there were this many type of calls here. You don't see it, so you don't know that it's here. But as a taxpayer, if somebody tells me why they're increasing my taxes, for what purpose, I have no problem with that.
And it's not something frivolous. I mean, you're not increasing
Building a park.
taxes to do something frivolous with it. And to hire another police officer is not a frivolous expenditure.
Thank you.
Well, we pay $700,000 of our general fund money to the police department. And I told the chief, and I'll say it on the record, that you live within your means when you're taxing people and you have 7 police officers, there's two sitting in this room now, assume there's one working in a car somewhere today. I think that scheduling, Chief and I disagree with this, but when you sit at this table, safety, it can apply, it can, you know, it's hard to sit here and say, oh man, like, you vote against that, you don't believe in the safety of our people or the safety. But I also believe in living within your means and scheduling in a way that it's hard for me to not understand that 7 police officers in the city of Mexico Beach cannot do the things. And if we have 8, there's going to be cases that there's going to be 12 against 1 or 12 against 2. There's going to be cases where you got a traffic stop or you take somebody to jail. There's going to be, I mean, there's going to be hypothetical scenarios no matter what you have. And there's other departments that are just as important to this city. And I'm not comfortable spending additional funds in the police department based on what we already spent. I'm one vote. But that's the same thing I told him, so that's not anything. That's, all right, so we need to make a
So why don't
decision.
you present him with a schedule then, that covers everything that might happen with those 7 officers? They have to have a couple days off, what if somebody's out on sick leave? Let's see a schedule. If you think it can all be resolved with scheduling.
I didn't say it could be, I said, I didn't say it could be resolved with the schedule. I think there's room to make scheduling adjustments to help.
But you still, there's a lot of times with 7 people, you still.
Okay, well, this isn't always between me and you, okay? This isn't, that's not, if you, I just gave my opinion, and I
No,
said
I'm
one
asking the
vote.
citizens, let's see a schedule.
I'm not a police officer, it's not my job to make the schedule.
But you're the mayor, you just said, no, I won't give him extra money because he needs to schedule.
That's right, that's my opinion.
So let's see some scheduling differences.
Yes, ma'am.
How can you tell when people are going to fight?
Okay.
You only have one officer on duty. I mean, go
Hey,
to.
let me tell you something. I support my opinion. I'm entitled to that. I sit here as a vote for the city, and that may not be what y'all want to hear from me. I'm sorry, but that's how I feel about what I think is in the best interest for the taxpayer.
And I'm gonna add, it's getting to be a little bit raw, this should be a comment back and forth on issues, not challenging Al. Yeah, I would like to see it, but I'm not gonna challenge him, because that's not the case. I think my only comment is we rely on our staff.
Sure.
To adjust us, but I agree with him.
So just a minute, you're out of order. Okay, you're out of order. No, you're simply out of order, please.
I'm asking a question.
You're out of order. And you were answered, he said he wasn't going to do it. Whether it's right or good answer or not answer, it's an answer. And I could have said the same thing, you know.
Bill, with due respect, can we get
yes,
to the table?
Sure, I'm
Okay.
sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
We have a request for, is it, again, point
167.
Point 167. 167, we have a request to add that to the millage rate for the sole purpose of an officer. Is there any other comments from the table?
If, I have a question for you. We have to, by Friday, indicate our millage rate. We can deduct some later on if we want to.
Correct,
right?
you just can't go up.
But we cannot go up. So if we put
Did
it
the- if you
in
did-
there and then gave us time to think, and maybe the chief can come up with a schedule, give us a possible schedule, kind of like what Al was saying, you know, to help us think of how Al's thinking. And then if we say, oh, that would work, we could reduce it. If we say it doesn't, you know.
Or you
then-
could cut 51,000 out somewhere else.
Right, we still have the option.
We can set it
I
at
don't
the
know.
higher
I mean-
rate for the
Yeah,
advertisement.
that's true. We can, you don't have to stay at the 5.184.
We-
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can set it there, give you time to talk about it, think about it, do whatever you gotta do, and then when we final certify it, that's when you can decide what you're gonna do. You just can't go
Exactly.
above it.
What's the
Okay.
date on that?
The final or the,
The final?
I have it, I'll make it
It's
longer.
that way down
It's
the
about,
Yeah.
6 weeks.
Oh, okay. That's all right.
So that would
That's
give us
good.
a little
There'll
leg
be two
room
public,
right
there's
now.
gotta be 2 public hearings.
final adoption's end of September.
Okay, so that would give us some leg room right now.
I like
So
it.
do you wanna just add that to the file, or you wanna just pick a number?
I think we just add
Add
it,
that.
since that's the one item we're talking about, with the understanding that we will go back and look at it and listen to the chief and make a decision which way to go, either with it or move it back.
What does that make it, Adrian? 5.3 what?
351,
5.351,
right.
okay?
Yes, and then I have to certify that amount plus our first public hearing date. Our first public hearing date is September 11th at 6 PM, is what I have. It could change, but I'll let you know that.
Okay.
Which is the 25th of September is going to be your final that you can change it back to.
All right. 5.351 adds the difference that we were just talking about to the existing millage. All right? Motion?
Sure.
So moved.
And the motion is for 5.351,
I'm sorry, yes, for 5.351.
and we have a second. Call the roll.
Mr. Walsh, Flynn?
Yes.
Ms. Albrecht?
Yes.
Mayor Kathy?
No.
Mr. Wallace?
Yes.
Mr. Putnam?
Yes. All right, moving on.
Enterprise funds?
Enterprise fund.
One question. Just
Sure, right quick.
Public law enforcement, what is the base salary, starting salary of sheriff's department in Rankin and Gulf County? Is it anywhere close to 51,000?
51,000 is a loaded rate, which is cost of benefits and everything, so that's not a fair comparison of what their wage is. Because our wage is $14.02 an hour.
And it's not too far.
It's folks, could we not hire an off-duty deputy in times of need? Call them right in from St. Joe, say, come help us out, fight night or whatever it is.
When's that?
Fourth of July, you know, I mean,
We do
I believe in scheduling and use the resources here, trying to get somebody from Panama is crazy. We got help here, maybe on a part-time basis.
Well, we do have, we do have a mutual aid agreement that we do have all upon. I've got a really good report with Sheriff Harris and Sheriff Ford. But it's the distance. Adrian checked last week when I brought this up in council, or the city staff meeting, and they do have 3 officers working a shift. However, we have a north unit and a south unit and a supervisor. Fight night, as you brought it up, is universal across the board. So if fight night is here, they have 2 fight nights in Gulf County. So there's your 2 units, but they have 3 with a supervisor. I don't have a supervisor. You have 1 officer. The ultimate plan was, when I came in as sheriff chief, was to have a 3-to-3 sergeant. But even with the staffing right now, the sergeant himself is working the shift. Right? That does bring more knowledge and capability. But if an incident does occur, and the sergeant obviously has more years of experience, can make a better judgment call. Not everybody has to go to jail. That is my philosophy of the department. If I can give you a citation or notice to appear, and then I can go about my business, not leaving the city unattended. The problem is, we're leaving the city unattended and the officers unattended. So they can't come here. We do have reserves, but even them are limited. I have one that's putting in his notice in about 3 weeks because his wife is military, and then moved to the Carolinas. I won't have a reserve department either. We're so far off of each other. So to answer your questions, I can get people here. They just won't be anytime soon. There's a 15 or 20.
All right, Adrian.
Water? The only changes to water are impact fees. You'll see a transfer in of $51,403.50. And that is directly correlated to an expense under infrastructure for $51,403.50. And that is for the water line move for the bridge project on 35th Street. 6th Street. Well, I hesitated on the street number. So that's an in and an out. You'll see it's balanced now. as I had to increase the revenue on top to make this budget balance. If you remember last time, it was off about $60,000. And we can get into the rate change now, or we can do all three of these and do it at the end, whichever you prefer.
Let's do it at the end.
Okay, next one is gonna be sewer fund. There's a transfer in that's been added for impact fees of $32,663.50. Directly corresponds to the infrastructure in the same amount, and that is also the sewer line move for the bridge project on 36th Street. This budget is fine, no change in rate, no change in nothing. Sanitation fund. Sanitation fund has one change. Under depreciation, we had $28,000. That number has been changed to $58,000. This allows for a greater amount of money to be saved and put aside to replace our garbage truck. $28,000 over 3 years simply is not enough money to pay for a garbage truck. The one we just purchased was about $150,000. This fund, if you remember, also had a significant shortfall, and the sanitation user fees on top had to be adjusted to make up that difference. And now we can go into the rates if you're ready.
And we gotta figure out a way too to save money in order to buy dumpsters.
And that's part of that
something we have to
58,
do.
yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
What are we, on the sanitation, let me bring you, I sort of covered it earlier, but it appears that the county, their willingness to help is us in our going to St. Joe versus Panama. They've got restrictions that are going to cause us that's going to cause them some issues. So what did we have in here? We had for tipping fees. You didn't change that?
I had been budgeting 130 previously. I've changed it to 180, and that number may even be low because we did spend 173 last year. But the change on the tipping fees happened last year. So 180 is pretty fair.
Well, I looked into, just a quick, the tipping fees in St. Joe is $65 a ton. The tipping fees in Panama City is $51.80. So there's roughly $13 less cheaper, if you would. But of course, we've got time, trucks, fuel, we got all of that thing. There's no good fix there from the county because of the debt service that they've incurred with the incinerator for 6 years.
So 180 should be fair for tipping fees.
Yeah, okay.
Because of that. Now the fuel will probably increase.
I'm still working on that, but I don't think I'm gonna go anywhere. I don't think there's gonna be any option. I don't think they're gonna see any way
I agree.
just to cut us out without cutting maybe somebody else out.
So 180 should be fine. The fuel will probably be higher, but we budget higher because we never know what fuel does. So we should be fine overall on that one.
Okay.
Which brings us to, you should have a rate sheet in there. I think I put it in the packet. Yeah, I did. It's up there. All right. In order to make these funds balance, the water rate would change from $35.81 to $37.71. The sewer rate, also that you'll see a change, and this is because there's a pass-through coming from the county of 8 cents per 1,000 gallons. So that would go from $45.21 to $45.53. Sanitation change would be $26.86 to $30.17 for a grand total of $110.39, which is your current bill, to $116.05. We have currently, as of Monday, 2,151 active meters or active and suspended water meters in the city, and we have 1,716 trash customers. Dividing the shortfall by those amounts gives you these balances.
Say that again?
Dividing the amount we were short by the number of customers gives you that rate change. So I'll give you a second to digest and then we can go into.
Adrian, did you say 2151 for water?
2151 for water as of Monday.
1716 for trash.
Correct. On the trash rates, I did not adjust the dumpster rate, only the residential and commercial pickup rates. The dumpster rates we hit significantly when we did the increase 2 years ago, and I don't think that's where our expense is coming. I believe it's on the residential side.
Okay. So we're looking at $5.66, $5.66.
Total for all of them,
Yeah, for total.
The most significant being sanitation.
With these increases at this time, then there wouldn't be a deficit in any of them?
Correct.
Okay.
Now this, it's just point of information, it's not a, I mean, it has nothing to do with our millage rate.
Correct. This is not one that has to be certified by Friday.
Right, this is just more of a, well, because we did them all, I mean,
Yeah, we do
general,
this.
that's what we do these, and, it's one of those things where you can probably, we can sit on it, and when this news filters out in town, there'll be more people here next time.
We have to do don't we have to do these changes individually by ordinance also?
We usually, yeah, at our budget hearings, we usually do 4 ordinances. One's general and then the 3.
We just do it though at the same time we
Yeah.
do our,
Yeah.
We do the process of preparing at the same time. As far as the timeline, we've got more time to decide.
right.
Because we have until September to
So do you
certify.
want to just take what we've been told, digest it, or do you want to have more discussion about
I
it?
think take it, I mean, digest is what I'm saying, and take it that way, because I think our citizens, we need to give them time. I'm glad we put it out there so we can.
Yeah, oh yeah, without question.
Is there anything I can prepare for the council to help justify, explain, whatever you want to call it, these rate changes?
Well, the one thing I think.
Well, you've already.
No, go on.
Now, the one thing I would think is the idea somewhere on this, as people look at it, that many of these are to bring the account to an equal status, which
Right.
is we're required to do. And then also, of course, then flag the, which you normally do anyway, the changes of how much cost of water. But to let them know that we're not trying to do anything but what we have to do and bring the accounts to bottom line 0.
And the water change has nothing to do with Bay County's rates to the city, because they are not changing the rate this year. That is simply related to our expenses and our debt service, operating, etc.
I think if they know that we're not losing money and we're not giving it away free.
Well, yeah, the other side is they know that if we don't make it up this way, we gotta take it out of the general fund, which means we've got to put taxes up higher to do that. So, it's gotta be paid one way or the other,
Can't take it out of general.
right? I know, but that would be the only real, you can't, I know, but that's,
Now, the water fund does still have a positive cash balance. It's like $3,000 positive. The sanitation fund, I believe, will end with a negative cash balance this year. It's gonna be close.
All right, well then we'll take that information, we'll, like I say, put it out there for what it takes, and then we'll come back with some analysis, that will show, justify what we're trying to do, and I think we can do that.
If y'all remember too, at our last budget meeting, I had $100,000 in there for water tower and tank maintenance. We've taken that out partly because of the 36th Street Bridge project and the rate or the balancing issue. But we'll tackle that again next year. But we did take that $100,000 out.
Yeah, that was done, 7 or 8 years ago? Tank or in that range?
Yes, sir.
is this being recorded?
They did the inside too.
They did the inside, they replaced the roof and all that good stuff. Our tower needs to be pressure washed and painted again. It's got a lot of grime and whatnot on it, and our million-gallon tank. We are actually going to attempt ourselves to do some repair work this off-season to try to cut costs there.
All right, anything under miscellaneous?
Yes.
Oh, yes, sir.
Department of Transportation came up to us yesterday. They're getting ready to start repaving the road from DuPont Ridge all the way through Mexico City 386. They're starting on August 7th, but they wanted us to know there's going to be some significant travel issues that way over November. Then they're supposed to be in travel November.
Supposedly, they're supposed to have their own flagman, but they also know that's not always the count. So I'll be utilizing what reserve or what officers will be voluntold to assist in traffic delays on that.
DOT's pretty good about that, though. I mean,
The contractor should be responsible for
Yeah.
that. I would hope.
How much do they make an hour?
But-
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I know.
$35, $40.
Until November for turtle season, but they plan on having us done between November and March.
Thank you.
I've got two quick
Go
things.
ahead.
First one, does the council have a desire for the auditor to come and present the audit, or wait till next year? No findings, nothing significant. He just wants to know if we wanted him to come up.
I don't.
We had a good report.
Report was excellent.
Well then, kudos to you then.
We'll skip it. And then the second thing is, at the last meeting, remember I spoke about a CD? I've abandoned that idea, and I'm looking more into money market, because money market money isn't tied up, and I'm finding interest rates even higher in the money market. So I'm gonna explore that further, so that'll be coming out.
Bless you.
That's all I have.
The only thing I'd like to
Okay. Well, I guess we didn't do the reports. Oh, no, under miscellaneous, we still got reports. My bad. Go ahead, Bill, I'm sorry.
No, I thought we were the only thing I was gonna do is remind our citizens that are listening over the tape to please, we've got the budget and several other things. Please get involved and talk to us or come to the meeting.
Right. Give them your phone number.
You got, it's out there.
Right.
They got my email, yours too.
Yeah, I know.
Anything else? Budget reports, Chief, you got anything?
No, sir, that's all I have. Thank you.
Mark?
ISO was Thursday morning, and I'm still waiting for those plans and stuff that y'all requested last night.
No.
Negative.
You said all you need to say.
Yeah, the formal report will come at the second.
You got anything else?
Gee, it's lunchtime.
All right, anybody? Motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second. Thank everybody for coming.
I'm sorry.